Considering the ongoing storyline surrounding Red Bull's drivers, Daniel Ricciardo's move to prevent Sergio Perez from following Red Bull's instructions during the qualifying session of the Mexican Grand Prix seems like a scene ripped right from the pages of a movie. Or, in this case, Netflix's Drive to Survive. Lucky for you, you don't have to wait for that episode to air before you know all the details. Just keep watching the video and we'll get you up to speed. This scenario is tailor-made for an exaggerated Ricciardo versus Perez seat showdown episode. There are plenty of elements to add to the suspense, the uncertainty surrounding Perez's future, Ricciardo's comeback from injury, the significance of Checo's home race, and Christian Horner's comment from Friday's press conference that says plenty on its own. They not only want Perez in those first few rows, they need him to be there. Switch to the scene of Ricciardo crossing the finish line during qualifying, securing the fourth fastest time and snagging that coveted second row for himself. In the process, he denied Perez the outcome Red Bull had set their sights on. Meanwhile, a gracious yet determined Perez watched just as he did after the qualifying session. Speaking on Ricciardo's act of thievery, he said, "Daniel did a tremendous lap, but I don't think it's just Daniel who wants my seat. Let's say there are a lot of other drivers that want to be in that seat, and it's great. If it's what they deserve, then I'm happy for them." Portraying this as a lopsided Ricciardo triumph wouldn't give Perez the credit he deserves. It's important to acknowledge Perez's impressive performance, particularly when compared to Max Verstappen. He rose to the occasion and delivered one of his standout qualifying sessions of the season, with a final lap that significantly narrowed the gap to Verstappen. Given his recent challenges, pulling off such a strong one-lap performance should provide a substantial boost to his confidence. It reaffirms his belief that the diligent work in the Red Bull simulator has helped correct previous missteps and set him on a more promising trajectory. If Verstappen barely secures a spot within the first two rows and Perez falls short by less than 2/10, Red Bull might accept Perez missing out on those prime positions. However, this situation only reinforces what was previously understood, which is that Perez, when at his best, can come remarkably close to matching Verstappen's performance, especially when the RB19 is slightly off its optimal qualifying setup. What stands out even more is that he was outperformed by none other than Ricciardo, the driver most likely to challenge Perez for his seat, whether it's in 2024 or 2025. Ricciardo delivered a stellar performance in only his second race back with Red Bull's second team, despite the recent setback of breaking his hand. In this process, Ricciardo provided the initial concrete proof that he has the potential to be the kind of teammate that Red Bull requires for Verstappen. This development holds far more significance in terms of fresh insights compared to Perez's return to form. It's safe to say that Red Bull would undeniably see it as a major victory if both drivers could consistently perform at this level. Both off the track and on it, Ricciardo displayed remarkable motivation and enthusiasm throughout the weekend. He even described himself as having a chip on his shoulder, but in a positive sense. His second comeback in 2023, which took place in Austin last weekend, got off to a shaky start due to car damage that hampered his race. The sprint weekend format limited his ability to fine-tune the car setup, since it required locking it in early on Friday. However, here in Mexico, Ricciardo seems to have tapped into something he initially found intriguing back at Zandvoort before his injury. After shaking off the rust once more, gathering valuable data over the weekend, and having the liberty of a regular race weekend to fine-tune the car to his preferences in Mexico, Ricciardo has truly resembled the rejuvenated driver that Red Bull was determined to offer the AlphaTauri race seat to mid-season. Red Bull's decision to rescue him from a potential early exit from McLaren and appoint him as a reserve driver for 2023 is starting to look like a smart move. During qualifying, Ricciardo appeared comfortable with the car, notably putting more trust in the front end without it feeling excessively understeered. His inability to drive in his natural and fast style was a significant challenge for him during his McLaren stint. In Mexico, he seemed to rediscover the form reminiscent of his time at Renault and his earlier years at Red Bull. Ricciardo was asked by the race's Ed Straw about where the increased confidence in the car was most evident. This was his response: "Definitely its corner entry. As drivers, we'll complain about a lot of things. We want traction, we want this, we want that. But if you can have that confidence in the corner entry, that's where it all starts. If you get the entry right, it helps the mid-corner, helps the exit. That kind of confidence I've had turning the car into the corner has really been important. Even when I first drove it in Budapest, it wasn't the fastest car, but it gave me a feeling which was something I knew I could start to build on and start to drive to my strengths and feel a little bit like my old self. That was something with the McLaren that didn't suit me, and I couldn't quite understand or get my head around it. It's nice to now be able to set the car up a bit more to my liking, and hopefully this is the start of a consistently faster AlphaTauri. The AT04 has undeniably been performing impressively in Mexico, but Ricciardo's standout performance began right from the first session. His track record here is noteworthy, as it's the only location, aside from Monaco, where he has secured a pole position in F1. This trend has persisted, with consistent showings in free practice, ranging from 8th to 9th, and strong qualifications with 3rd, 4th and 4th place finishes in the 3 sessions. This outcome isn't a result of some extraordinary last-minute Q3 effort. Instead, it's a reflection of Ricciardo's genuine speed and strong performance throughout the entire weekend, as he himself emphasised when he said, "Obviously P4 is amazing, but then you look at pole, it's 2 tenths. It's not like Max or someone is 7, 8 tenths down the road, so the gap is just as cool as the position. We're really there, and who knows what it means for tomorrow, but I don't think today's a fluke. I really feel like we had strong pace." This is important because the first 2 races Ricciardo participated in before his injury yielded respectable but inconclusive results. The Austin race followed a similar pattern. However, what we're witnessing in Mexico is Ricciardo exuding supreme confidence and sheer speed. And it's been a while since he has appeared this impressive. It's honestly hard to recall the last time. This sentiment is mutual for him as well. That's why he carried the demeanour of someone who believed he had truly returned to a high level, a place he hadn't consistently reached since occasional glimpses in 2021. He skillfully sidestepped a question about how it felt to outperform the driver whose seat he aspires to claim, saying, "I mean, look, it's cool, but I'm ahead of a lot of people. It's just cool to be that far up the grid again. It's been a while." Ricciardo's quest for a Red Bull Racing return entails more than just a single impressive weekend and a stellar qualifying performance. However, if this transformation is rooted in a shift that he comprehends and has experienced, it indicates the potential for this success to be maintained beyond the current event. When you combine this with all the other elements that render Ricciardo an attractive choice, his commercial appeal, wealth of experience, and his rapport with Verstappen, his case becomes significantly more compelling. It won't solely hinge on Perez falling short and Red Bull's desire to replace him. It will also include an enticing factor that favours Ricciardo. None of these points should be interpreted as diminishing Perez's abilities or contributions. In fact, Perez can provide just as much, and these factors may be applicable to him as well. Ever since Ricciardo entered the discussion for the AlphaTauri seat mid-season, people have been asking what Red Bull truly saw in him as a racing driver, especially considering the challenging 2 years he endured at McLaren. Red Bull, as well as Ricciardo and those in his circle, have been resolute in their belief that he has unravelled the complexities that had entangled his driving technique. They are convinced that he is more than capable of returning to his peak form. So, what does this all mean for Sergio Perez? Tell us what you think in the comments section down below. And, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.